Marco Pierre White swears to have the best Pomodoro sauce recipe, so today we're going to put that to the test.
You want me to make the sauce? I'll make the sauce.
As most of you know, I'm a very big Gordon Ramsay fan, and Marco Pierre White trained him to become everything he is today. So when I saw a recipe from Marco for a perfect Pomodoro sauce, I was like, I gotta give this a try. And it is very simple and will take only about an hour of your time. And to start, we're gonna mix fresh cherry tomatoes, perfect in the summer right now, with some canned crushed tomatoes. And Marco says from who he learned this from, that is the perfect combination for this sauce. So to start, we're just gonna chop these tomatoes in half. That will help them break down in the sauce. I don't think you need to do this, but it will make the process quicker. I'm going to try to follow this recipe as close to Marco's as I can. There's some things here that I normally wouldn't do, but that Marco did, so don't question me if you don't like something. But yeah, we're going to cut these all into halves. Normally you would take this onion and this garlic and you would chop it up into a fine little bit of a dice, but Marco takes it over to a box grater. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to grate this entire whole white onion, and to that we're also going to add 4 to 5 whole garlic cloves, depending on how garlicky you like it. But that's what you're looking for there. It almost looks like when you make hash browns with potatoes, but with an onion. And the point is that this will help get a lot of the moisture out of the onion very quickly. When I'm grating the garlic though, I'm going to use the other side of the box grater just to get a little bit smaller piece. And that's the mix right there. I'm just going to mix this together because we're going to cook this all in the pan at the same time. We will be using our Dutch oven here, so to start, this is on very medium low. You don't want to cook anything too high. Nothing wants color at this point. So we're going to add in a good amount of olive oil, enough to coat the bottom of my Dutch oven. And now we're going to add everything in here cold. You don't want it browning, so we're going to let this come up to temperature very slowly. Give it a little bit of salt to get out any extra moisture, but the grating should help a lot of that. And now we're just going to mix this together and let it do its thing for probably 5 or 6 minutes. That's what we're looking for right there. You don't want anything cooking too hard. It's just barely simmering. It's releasing that water. That's what you're looking for. They're going to start to turn a little weird color. That's totally normal. That's the olive oil kind of penetrating them. Now we will add a bay leaf and a sprig of thyme once most of that water is evaporated out. Mix that together for about a minute or two, and then we'll be ready to start adding in tomatoes. We're going to start here first with the halved cherry tomatoes, and we're going to let them cook down for probably about 10 to 15 minutes. You want them to really start to reduce all their liquids and break down a bit. It's going to take time, but you don't want to cook them too high. So keep this right now medium heat. Let that kind of do its thing. That's about 5 minutes. They're breaking down. After another 5 minutes or so, you can see they're starting to really reduce a lot of their liquid. That's what we're looking for. I'm going to let this go for another 2 or 3 minutes. That's what we're going to be left with right there. It's barely at a simmer. That's perfect. And now we're going to add in that full can of tinned tomatoes. This is all we're looking for. It's going to cook in the oven for about an hour, so these don't need to be fully cooked down right now. So just pour that tomato can in. Normally I would add a little bit of water, but because this recipe doesn't really lose any liquid due to evaporation, we don't need to do that. So give that a nice little mix, and now we're ready to throw this in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Celsius for about 1 hour. But first, Marco says add a cartouche to it. This will help keep a lot of the liquid from evaporating, and we will also put tinfoil around the lid of our Dutch oven just to make sure nothing gets out. So once you do that, oven 1 hour, and we'll see you back here shortly. Here we are at the 1 hour point. This is fully cooked now. It was in the oven at 300 degrees, like I mentioned. It looks a little thick, but trust me, once you start to mix it, you can see there's so much liquid left over. That all would have evaporated out if you use this on the stove. But now to take this one step further, as we cook our pasta, which is this alberilla bronzo, this bucatini, I think is the best. You can see there's so much starch on this pasta, but we're going to run the sauce through a mesh strainer, chinois, whatever you have. This will filter out all of the big chunks of anything, including the herbs that we added, and you'll be left with a very refined sauce. It is going to look a little bit thin, but as we cook that the last 2 or 3 minutes in the pasta, it will thicken up perfectly. So just go through, mix everything out, squeeze as much as you can out of that sauce, leave behind basically just tomato pulp and a little bit of onion pulp. But as you can see, it is fairly thin, but it does have some body to it. So as that pasta cooks, we're going to give this a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and then once that pasta is about 3 minutes away from al dente, take it out, drain it, and we're going to cook the last minute or two here in this sauce. That's what's going to help it really thicken up. I also added 1 tablespoon of butter to this. You don't need to do that, but I find that helps red sauces cling to your pasta a little better. Marco did not do that, so that's my little place where I deviated from the recipe. But I'm going to start with about 2.5 ladles full of that liquid. Really just mix that together. As you can see, it's super loose to begin with. Add in little bits of pasta water as you mix. That will help the emulsification process, and you'll see this really start to come to life. And here we are after about 2 or 3 minutes of mixing. It's not loose, it's not liquidy, it's formed a beautiful, perfect red sauce. And now let's plate this up. To throw this into a bowl, I tried to get a little fancy with it like Marco probably would. Tried to use the ring mold and a ladle. It didn't really work. I need to get just kind of like the meat fork to really get that perfect pasta twirl, but it still looks fine. We're going to top it with a little bit of parm at this point, some basil leaves. If you want to mix the basil in earlier, that's also totally fine. Marco does not do that though. And then top it with a little bit of evu. And now we're going to dive into this. The aromas coming from this dish were incredible. It's the best smelling red sauce I've ever made. Taste-wise, it's right on par with that. It's sweet, it's light, it's perfect for the summer. It's not going to really weigh you down. It's not overly acidic. This is fantastic. I think Marco was right. This is a great dish.